Yo, if you're watching this video, then I know you care about your career, and you probably use it for three things. The first one is to, of course, provide financial stability for yourself and for your family. The second is to provide a positive impact on the world. And then the third is, of course, to provide yourself purpose. I'm the same way. And in the last 6 years since I've graduated college and went on to work at Bain & Company as a consultant and then also do the Schwarzman Scholarship, I've helped dozens, if not hundreds of people, whether it's my friends, acquaintances, or people like you online who have just reached out to me for career advice. I've helped you all navigate different parts of your career, especially to make trade-offs between different options that you might have or paths that you might want to go down. Also that you can be where you want to be in life. But in this process of helping people assess trade-offs and risks, I found that there was this one kind of risk that unanimously across the board, nobody considered, in a way that now that I've seen a lot of these people's decisions play out 2, 3, 4 years into the future, I see that that one risk actually could have helped save them a lot of heartache and a lot of pain. So in this video, I want to discuss one, what is that risk and how did it impact people's careers? Two, why is that risk so important? And then I want to end the video specifically focusing on three things that I've personally done and some of my friends have done that I think you can easily implement in your own career thinking process to be able to avoid this kind of risk from negatively impacting your career. And if anything, by actually mitigating it properly, you make it become a strength. So let's get into it. Now, if you're new here, my name is Neil. I'm a 28-year-old. I graduated from a university in Dallas, Texas, which is in the US, where I studied engineering. Immediately afterward, I went and worked at Bain & Company for a couple of years. I left Bain to then go do the Schwarzman Scholarship, which is a fully funded one-year master's degree in China, before then going and moving to Australia to go work at Australia's coolest startup called Vow. Now, throughout this whole process, I actually started this channel with one of my best friends. His name is Rohit, and we met during college, specifically because Rohit and I came from a non-target school to get into these MBB management consulting firms. It was hard for us, and so we wanted to provide all of the resources that we wish we had to you. And given that position, a lot of people would reach out to me asking for career advice, career input, and help them weigh the different decisions that they were thinking about. And of course, having done this over now the last 6+ years, I've gotten to see how some of those decisions have actually played out for people. And for some of these people, I started to realize that they were actually quite unhappy with the decisions that they had made immediately after college, for a variety of reasons, but I didn't truly understand it until it happened to me. This was now about a year into Bain, and so for the first 6 months, I was really enjoying my time, enjoying my team, loving the work. It was non-COVID time, so we were traveling a little bit, enjoying all the perks. And then COVID came around and of course made consulting a lot worse, especially for the associates and the lower level people who were more contingent upon needing the in-person interaction and who were more interested in the travel. And because COVID took away all of the shiny parts of the job, it allowed me to really examine, what is this job? How does it make me feel? And do I actually like it? And after doing that examination, in combination with also working on a really, really bad project that was unsustainable, so like had really long working hours, the work content wasn't good, and I also personally wasn't performing that well, I came to the decision that I actually didn't want to be a consultant. And so because of that, and the unhappiness that I had around it, I actually got a lot more empathy for the people who I was seeing from afar feel the same way about their career. And that's when it clicked for me why that was the case. The moment that I understood why I wasn't having a good time is the moment that I understood that I didn't want to become a partner or a senior manager within Bain, or any consulting firm for that matter. The reason that that is important is because a company like Bain is simply trying to push you up the ladder so that you can become more and more senior. And so as a result, they are of course rating you on skills that will get you to that next position. They are incentivizing you to improve on all of your deficiencies, but that does not take into account the other half of that equation, which is, do you actually want to develop those skills? Do you actually want to become that kind of person or that kind of professional? And that's where we get to the most important risk that people often do not calculate when they're making career decisions, which is, what is the risk of working at a place for an extended period of time that incentivizes you to become somebody that you don't want to be, or to develop skills that you don't care about, or that might be your weaknesses? The reason that that is an important risk to consider is as follows. There was one time when one of my friends who worked at the startup that I used to work at as well, someone who I respected really greatly, he used to be an early employee at a really successful software company called Plaid. And he told me that culture at a company is really just three things. It's 1, what is celebrated, 2, what is tolerated, and then 3, what is punished. That, in a nutshell, represents culture at a company. And the reason that not wanting to be like the senior people at a company is important is simply because any culture is going to push you more to becoming more like them. And so if you're not wanting to become more like them, you're almost like a rock within a river. You're fighting upstream. If not, you have this flow of information, flow of momentum going against the direction that you actually want to go in. And so when that light bulb clicked for me, it also made sense why all these other people who I had known either really well or from afar also felt similarly. We found ourselves in a situation where we hadn't properly calculated the risk of being in an environment professionally that was pushing us to be someone that we either didn't want to be like or that we didn't care to be like. And that could be anything from the skills that you were developing to you're just around people who value things like, for example, I remember at Bain, people valued handbags or wine collections, things that I just did not care about at all. It just had a general relationship with materialism that I couldn't empathize with, to give an example. And so that was a really important learning lesson for me. And so what does that mean for you, right? Now that there's this risk that we're talking about, which is the risk of being in a place that's not bringing you closer to who you want to be. So what do you do about it? As I mentioned earlier, there are 3 things that I think you can do that are incredibly actionable that can help you alleviate this risk. But of course, before I go into all 3 of them, the first thing I want to say is even just having it in your head is a really important thing, because most of the time people will consider things like prestige, what does it look like on your resume, what is a financial package, geography, all of these things that are relatively important, but they don't think about the fact that being in and around this specific company's culture and environment is going to inextricably change who you are, and you have to be thoughtful about, is that change what you want to see in your future self or not? Because I think that is honestly one of the most important things that the culture at your company does, which is shape who you're going to be in the future. So anyway, let's get into the 3 things that I think you can do to properly mitigate or take into account this risk. The first one, which is quite easy, is when you're talking to these people at the company that you're interviewing for, try to be thoughtful around, do you like them? What values, both as a professional within this firm, but then also as individuals outside of that, do they espouse? And do they live up to that? And are those values that you like? I think connected with this, and number 2, is another mindset thing, which is to, when you're interviewing, don't just think about it as they're interviewing you, but also you're interviewing them, right? I think one shift that I've had recently in my career, which has helped me a lot in interviews, is treating any interview I have as much about data gathering as it is about sharing. And I think what that does is it turns it from a scarcity mindset situation where you're just wanting them to like you and wanting them to find you impressive, to a 2-way street where, sure, that part of it is getting them to find you interesting, find your experiences valuable, but then also on the other side, you're assessing them and you're trying to figure out, is this a place that I want to be affecting who I will be in the future? And I think that frame or that shift in focus and mindset really does make it, 1, easier to interview, but then 2, allow you to more intentionally figure out if the aspects of that company are the actual aspects that you want to have in a future employer. And then the third one, and one that when I've done it, has been super successful, but this actually comes from one of my close friends who did this really well, is whenever you're, especially at the later stages of interviewing for a company, because I don't think this piece of advice you can do generally, it's too energy intensive, but let's say you're at the final round of one or handful of companies, try having conversations and reaching out to people who are unrelated to the team that you're working on, but still work at that company. They'll have much less incentive to lie to you or to hide anything. And it's also another valuable data point of if that company and the values and the culture that they have is truly what you want. And so with that, that's the biggest risk that I see people often not taking, and how some ways that you can mitigate it and turn that even into an advantage. Now, before I leave, one quick ask. As you can see, we're restarting our channel, both to talk about consulting, but then also more broad career aspects. If there's any videos that you think you'd find interesting to make, please let us know. They'll go to the top of my idea backlog, and I'd love to work on things that I know you guys are excited about. So let us know down in the comments below. Cheers.